Hello, everyone, and welcome back into the GSMC Dead Ball Sports Podcast, brought to you as always by the GSMC Sports Network. And for our third segment of today's show, we're going to be discussing the All-AFC playoff offense, the top performers in the AFC in that regard. And there were a lot of them, specifically amongst teams that weren't the Chiefs. Yes, there are going to be Chiefs on this list, but I do want to appreciate all the AFC participants this year because of the fact if they were not top performers on their respective squads probably wouldn't have made as much noise as they have, whether it's surprising or not. So, without further ado, let's respect all of the AFC playoff participants and not just the Kansas City Chiefs because of their inevitability. But without further ado, we have to talk about the quarterback because it actually is Patrick Mahomes. And it's going to make a lot of people unhappy that Patrick Mahomes is an all-AFC playoff performer this year because it seemingly feels like this hasn't been his best playoffs. But look at his game against Buffalo and tell me that it wasn't enough to make you say, this guy just wins in the right moments. Look at what he did to elevate not only his game, but his teammates' games in that one. He took whatever the defense gave him, and against that Bills soft zone coverage, they gave up a lot. And he took it. And then with his legs, really impacted this game as well. That was a surprising development in terms of how the game would be won by either side, because everyone thought that Josh Allen's legs would play a big role in this game and not Patrick Mahomes's. But he ran the ball 11 times for 43 all-important yards and 2 all-important touchdowns with a difference in that game. And if you're telling me that he's not the best when it matters in the playoffs, then I would think you ludicrous because he just performs when he needs to. And yes, you can say that there were better quarterbacks on both sides of the conferences, but ultimately, I feel like Patrick Mahomes is the ultimate performer when it matters on the margins. So that's why I feel like he is deserving of an all-AFC playoff spot, no matter what the stats say. Then at the running back positions, we have ultimately a guy who I was completely wrong about this season. I really thought before the season that this move would not work, but I was dead wrong, and he really has been a special player for Baltimore, and that is Derrick Henry. Second to Saquon Barkley in terms of rush yards this season. Most importantly, I feel like his performance against the Bills is why he's here. And I feel like for both of these teams, who coincidentally have both of their running backs on this list, I kind of feel like had they relied on their guys in the critical moments a little bit more, they would have won the game. For example, the Ravens on that second 2-point try. Why didn't they not think of something for Derrick Henry in that situation? Because yes, it was a beautiful play, but there's a chance of it being an incomplete pass. And the worst plays in football are an interception and an incompletion. And you have one of the best running backs in the league in your backfield, waiting for a moment like that. So, I feel like Derrick Henry's performances go underappreciated just because of the fact that he didn't go deep enough for many in the postseason, but 186 yards, 2 touchdowns in that wild card win over the Pittsburgh, and then his performance against the Bills should definitely not go underappreciated, and especially when he averaged 5.3 yards per carry as well in that Ravens offense. Truly a mystery as to why not have him down the stretch lead that team to success in the divisional round, but I guess we'll never know, and I hope that next year they really look to him a lot more in critical moments because that's what he does for this Baltimore Ravens team. Finishes games strongly. And then James Cook as well also could be a questionable choice for this Bills team in terms of not having him run the football in crucial moments as well. Probably the third best back in the league this year in terms of his importance to the Bills and in terms of what he did from scrimmage as well. He scored 3 touchdowns throughout the entire postseason, was very big, especially in that championship game against the Chiefs. Really led that offense in the second half, and if it weren't for him, the Bills probably would not have gotten into that game as successfully as they had and averaged 5.1 yards per carry. So, I feel like both Henry and Cook are the two what-if guys of the postseason. What if their teams relied on them in critical moments, in short yardage situations, and really allowed them to win them important football games? But we're left pondering the decisions made by both of their coaches in what have been a situation where either one of these teams could have been in the Super Bowl instead of Kansas City. But who knows why? Because ultimately, when you are a run-heavy offense like both of these teams really are, chances are both of your backs in that Derrick Henry and James Cook might have gotten a little bit tired, but it leaves no excuse if, say, you want to win the big games. And that's where I call the decision-making of both McDermott and Harbaugh really skeptical in terms of how they utilize both their guys. But nevertheless, they still really were incredible performers in the postseason this year. Then at the wide receiver position, not many guys stand out in terms of the AFC side of things, definitely more so on the NFC side of things, and we'll get to that segment. But there were some guys who ultimately ramped it up in critical moments for their teams and really showcased how necessary they could be and are becoming for their squads as well. One specifically being Nico Collins, especially considering the fact that he was their last hope in terms of receiving production, as both Diggs and Dell had gone down earlier in the season. And he as well went down in the season, but coming back ultimately was the reason why, they had a chance not just against the Chargers but against the Chiefs. And I just feel like, had the Texans' offensive line not been absolutely annihilating the Chiefs and Chase Stroud had time to throw, I feel like his connection with Collins would definitely have made a difference in this game, potentially leading to an upset. But alas, we only got that one good game out of Nico Collins. But most importantly, it was a game in which the Texans felt like they had no hope. A lot of pundits were saying that this was going to be an absolute boat race by the Los Angeles Chargers on the road, but it was the exact opposite, all down to Nico Collins' play, to the point where he still leads the AFC in postseason receiving yards. He had 122 in that game against the Chargers and really could have made even more of a difference against the Chiefs if that offensive line had a chance, but we'll never know, unfortunately. But then, in terms of the Chiefs, another Chiefs standing out, Xavier Worthy, he really stood out when it mattered most in that very critical game against the Bills, making big catch after big catch, especially in the first half. I feel like Xavier Worthy definitely deserves to be on this offensive roster for the AFC in terms of best performers. He's got 11 of 13 targets this postseason, his rookie year, his first year in the postseason, and I feel like his star could continue to ascend in the Super Bowl as well. A lot of people think that he has a chance to showcase what he can be for the future of this Chiefs offense in that game as well, and he's really proving it as well. And last but not least, let's talk about the tight end position, because really there's only one name that stands out, but also someone who, no matter what, no matter how he's playing, still is viewed as the all-time AFC tight end and playoff tight end. Travis Kelce. And here's why. Yes, this year he's begun to show his age, and he was not as vital to the Chiefs' passing game success this season as well as now in the postseason. But he still was the difference maker in that game against the Houston Texans and really, really makes a difference when it matters for the Chiefs. Much like Mahomes, a lot of people are going to be mad at his inclusion in this group. But still, when it matters, I feel like Travis Kelce steps up his game to the point where he is leading all AFC tight ends in receiving yards. And so, no matter what, whether he's having a rough game or is their leading receiver, Travis Kelce just means a lot to this Chiefs team. And it might be because of what he's doing without the football that's really making people notice his postseason performance. It's been a really unselfish performance throughout the postseason from Travis Kelce. Only in that Houston game, when it was starting to get a little bit antsy down the stretch for the Chiefs, did he really showcase his top-end talent and how he has adapted to the league. But ultimately, Travis Kelce is still a premier tight end because of what he does without the football as well as with it. But ultimately, when I look at this all-AFC playoff offense, I definitely don't see as much talent as the NFC playoff offense. I definitely don't see as many breakout stars. I definitely see a lot more chalk and comfortability with this AFC roster. But maybe that's all you really need. Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Xavier Worthy, obviously, all deserving of members of the Kansas City Chiefs. But it just goes to show the dominance that one team can have over a list like this. And then Derrick Henry and James Cook, spectacular all year. Probably what people would have predicted in terms of what an all-AFC playoff offense could look like, but are left on the sideline because in critical moments, potentially their teams didn't rely on them. Potentially, they were just a little bit too tired. And then a guy like Nico Collins is probably the anomaly on this list because of the fact that not a lot of people were hopeful about this Texans team, and they really needed to say that Nico Collins had to be the guy for this squad. They stepped up, ultimately caused an upset, nearly caused another, but still proved that he's an elite wide receiver that can't be forgotten if Houston continues to improve. Let me know what you think of this all-AFC playoff offense, because then, after this short break, we're going to be transitioning over to the all-NFC playoff offense where a lot more talent abounds. We'll see you after this short break.